Amazing Training, Testing the Intelligence of Discord Cockroaches by Emma Allen,
Chase Baxter,
Ashley Hennessy,
and Cassie Signet. So, what are the objectives of the whole cockroach? Well, our main objective is to learn more about the Blaborus discordius, also known as the Discord cockroaches. We will utilize the cockroach's sense of smell to test the Discord cockroach's intelligence, basically the pathway. So why do we want to do this? Well, one main reason, because there isn't much research about the Discord cockroaches. So in order to not fully properly do it, we would be comparing Discord cockroaches to other species of cockroach. In other words, we'll be using the comparative method sometimes. Although this won't be a full-out comparison, as we, the group, are only focusing on the intelligence and preferences of the cockroaches.
Preferences. In a study published by iScience, they tested to see what cockroaches preferred. They did this by having 3 different scented shelters for them to choose from. One was vanilla scented, and one was social odors, and one was a mix of the two. What did the cockroaches prefer? Both vanilla and social odors were the preferred scent, and the mix of the two was avoided because the cockroaches perceived that if there was social odors and vanilla, that resource was already depleted. We will use this information of the scent that the cockroaches preferred, along with what they don't prefer. We may use shelters and smells. They liked for them to go through the maze and then avoid any sort of social smell that may deter them from completing the task. Intelligence. In a study published by the National Science Teaching Association, we learned that cockroaches have the ability to learn and hold memories. In this study, the researchers taught the cockroaches to associate smells they aren't normally drawn to, like peppermint, to now seem more desirable. They did this by adding sugar and water. This resulted in the cockroaches favoring it over other smells. They are normally very drawn to vanilla. The researchers then tested if the cockroaches could remember the new association and for how long. They did 2 separate trials, one in the morning and one at night. The ones done in the morning couldn't remember and had trouble forming and holding the memories. The ones at night were able to remember the new association for several days. We will use this information in the study of memory in our research by seeing if the cockroaches can remember the path out of the maze when they are given positive reinforcement along the way. To do this, we would have to use what they learned. Cockroaches are more willing and able to form new memories and learn during the evening versus the morning. Research question. Can discoid roaches learn through positive reinforcement training? Hypothesis. If discoid cockroaches can consistently follow a maze path through positive reinforcement training, then there is evidence that discoid cockroaches have cognitive abilities.
Methods. We're going to be using something that's called preference assessment. It's used in several different kinds of animal training, very, very rarely with any sort of insectoid animal. Here you can actually see 2 examples of the Wildlife Hospital Clearwater Marine Aquarium using them on 2 different species of dolphins. So this is kind of some new territory, taking it into using it on insects. Basically, what we will be doing is we'll be offering them several different things, stimulants, both good and bad, and we will be marking down how they react to these stimulants, and then placing all of these stimulants in a sort of hierarchical ranking from most reinforcing to least reinforcing, and we'll be using them accordingly. If you want to go to the next slide, we've got some further stuff on how exactly we're going to be doing this sort of preference assessment. We're going to be having a main sort of a hub, a sort of starting point both the vanilla scent, the social odors, and the sugars in three different sort of corridors. Um, this animal will have more than any sort of capability. It won't really have anything stopping it from um, progressing towards either one of these options, but we will get to see which one they go towards the most. And as we continue on with these tests, as we continue on marking down the results, um, we will continue to sort of switch them up as well by making sure that there's not a lot of leaning towards any specific direction. Especially if you want to go to the next slide, you might be able to see that um, as we have swapped the placement of the social odors, vanilla scent, and sugar, just to ensure that there isn't any side bias. Um, where no matter what you put, let's say in the left or middle, um, the cockroach will still be going to the one that it actually prefers instead of just preferring a side. That way we can get proper ideas of what this animal actually does prefer.
Also for the preference assessment, we're doing it individually, so one cockroach at a time, obviously. And so then for the maze, we're going to place cockroach A's preferred stimulus. So whichever, either the sugar, the odors, or vanilla, we pick the one that they pick the most, and we put that into the designated preferred stimulus spots in the maze. And there'll be 3 of those, which you'll see on the next slide of the maze. And then you're going to place vanilla and social odors together in the designated deterrent spots in the maze so that the cockroaches are deterred away from those areas and hopefully will stick to the reinforcement that they're given. So then we place cockroach A at the starting point. We're going to open the door and start the timer and basically just observe cockroach A and record if she follows the preferred stimulus trail or if she doesn't. And then once she reaches the end, we're going to remove preferred stimulus number 1 so that there will only be 2 preferred stimulus in the maze, and we're going to repeat the whole process above. And then after that trial, we're going to remove the stimulus number 2 and repeat the whole process again so that there's only 1 stimulus in the maze. And after that trial, we remove the next stimulus and repeat the process above. So we're basically taking out the stimulus and hoping that the cockroach will follow the trail and remember it if they have the capability. So if the cockroach completes the maze on the 4th trial, then that means they basically have the capacity to learn and remember and hold that information and the association between the positive reinforcement stimuli. And then after doing that with all of cockroach A, we're going to do the same exact thing, but with cockroach B. So on the next slide, this is a picture of the maze that we're going to be creating, or something of what our maze will look like. So you can see the starting box. We're going to have the door that we're going to lift up. And if they go one way, there'll be a deterrent of social odors and vanilla mixed together, which we already previously know that they don't like. And then this 1 spot is the stimulus number 1 that we're removing. The 2 spot in the middle of the maze is stimulus 2 that we're removing, and the 3rd one is the last one that we'll be removing towards the end. So yeah, there'll be 4 deterrents and 3 positive reinforcers, basically.
When talking about broader implications, there's a lot that can come from doing research on an animal, especially one like this that already has a sort of mindset attached to it that we humans tend to have. If our hypothesis is supported and that these animals are able to retain information and use that in a cognitively stimulating way, then it can show evidence for further sort of questions involving if they have better predator evasion because they can memorize maps in these sort of areas, if they are capable of mental mapping, if secondary reinforcement might be a possibility later on down the line. It could ultimately show us these animals are far more complex than we had thought and might have a better chance at utilizing cognitive abilities for their overall fitness.